You train people how to treat you. Very important concept to understand, right? Now, one thing you have to understand as a man, right, is that when you're engaging with women, how they feel is going to dictate a lot of what they think about how they interact with you. Understand that. Now, one thing that women often do is they use an emotional reaction, and men do the same thing. It's called minimizing and dismissing, right? A woman will often dismiss the validity of what you say through your frustration with how she behaves. Because if you don't like how she behaves, why are you even dealing with her, right? Now, when you get deeper into a relationship where a woman is seeing you pursue when she's misbehaving, then you make the mistake of doing that, right? And a lot of people who will listen are people who are currently going through it or who have already gone through it, right? You know, that's where certain things can be called a withdrawal of affection. And sometimes those type of behaviors will get categorized beneath being labeled as a narcissist. That's just how the shit goes. I don't make the rules. What you have to understand is that in the beginning, you teach people how to treat you. Now, how do you teach people how to treat you? Some of it is verbal and what you say. But a lot of it is about showing the ability and capacity to reward good behavior. Nothing makes you more untrustworthy to a woman, consciously or unconsciously, than being a man who has an inability to reward good behavior and not give energy to bad behavior. Right? A certain level of compromise and communication, it has to be earned. Right? You have to understand that when you're first engaging with a woman, you two are casual. She is not attached to you. You should not be attached to her. Seeking to over communicate, to be over accommodating, to be over compromising with the woman you just met is a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you have low options. Now, during this time is where you set the groundwork and her internal frame of reference for how she's going to interact with you. Right? And this time is where she needs to understand through interacting with you that you are not the type of man who is going to reward bad behavior. Now, what does that mean? That means that you're not going to sit there and try to check a woman a whole bunch you just met. Unless the situation really calls for it. But most of the time I say it's not. Right? You lay the groundwork. And if she's doing or saying things you don't like, don't give attention to it. Simple. You don't have to tell her you don't like it. Right? Because there's certain things you may have to say you don't like. Right? But certain things are things that you show you don't like it through not giving it time, attention, and energy. Right? There's a difference between a woman feeling like you're begging, a woman feeling like you're manipulative, a woman feeling like you're coercing, a woman feeling like you're trying to guilt and shame her or try to hold her accountable to a position that she feels she doesn't even have with you. There's a difference between that and her feeling like her actions the way she speaks, the way she interacts with you is unattractive, and you are genuinely getting bored and losing interest. Very important concept to understand. Because there's a difference between having a knockout drag out with a woman, right? Trying to go back and forth with her intellectually, proving to her that you see each other as on the same level. So why should she look up to you and choose to do things the way you want to do things over the way she wants to do things? Now it's a matter of, well, you're chasing after me, so we have to do things my way. And if you aren't offering what it is that I think I want right now, then what you say doesn't matter. Right? And this is something you got to understand, especially when you're entering into the casual realm. Right? When you're dealing with women on a casual basis. When you're utilizing the biology first approach, whether that's for being a confirmed bachelor, whether that's for sowing your oats to then later make a decision that you want a relationship. And I say this right here. If your idea of what you want to do is to sow your oats and then to eventually be very direct about wanting a relationship, then it's probably best to go to Alan Roger Curry. Real shit. If that's your perspective, it's best to go to Alan Roger Curry. I'd say go listen to him anyways. The only reason I haven't bought his books yet was really two reasons. One reason is because I'm working on my own stuff, and just listen to some of his videos on YouTube. I've listened to a good bit of his videos on YouTube. I don't want to feel like I'm stealing his talking points. So while I'm working on my own books, or at least my first one or two, I don't want to be in a position where maybe through osmosis, some of the things he says just become the things I say, and it's not my original ideas. Right? Because mode one is something that's a little bit different than what I do, but I have the utmost respect for mode one. It's different than what I do. Right? It definitely has times where it's completely similar. Right? But just for me personally, sometimes I'm not going to go out of my way to stress that right now is all it's ever going to be ever. Because as a young man who's seeking to operate within what I call transitional dating, it wouldn't be honest for me to say right now is all it's ever going to be 100%, and be honest with that 100%. And it also wouldn't be honest for me to say I'm looking for a relationship. Because the truth is, I'm not going to know whether or not this woman is relationship material for me until I've interacted with her enough in the way that I want to interact with her. Does that mean that sex is everything in a relationship? No. But most of the time, my perspective is before a relationship is even on the table with a woman, we have to already be a certain level of sexually compatible through experience. For me, that's before a relationship is even on the table. So sometimes it might be an under promise, over deliver. But sometimes it's just going to be I'm just very direct about the sexual aspect of my intentions. Very direct about that. But a lot of the times my take on it is, if at the place that a woman says she wants something to be more, if she hasn't already shown me, non-sexually as well as sexually, that this sexual dynamic is enough to sustain her by itself, right? And that it's enough to sustain me by myself. That then we could be monogamous, like, then the answer is going to be a no. Like, you know, it's no, that's not what I'm looking for right now. With you, you know, I might go ahead and tell her the process. I may or may not, because that's a matter of not wanting her to feel like a relationship is hanging over her head if she's not in a position to be in one with me right now based off of what my standards are. But I'm still fucking. Best believe that. Now, if that woman is within arm's distance of it and she brings it up, then I'm going to say what that last arm is. Right? Like, for me, I'm not going to lead a woman away from me, if that makes sense. That's what I'm not going to do. And I feel like being a young man who isn't looking to be of a certain age, getting married for the first time and not having any children, I'm going to be honest with you, I do have a little bit of fear of, like, man, what if you die kind of young? You never know these days, man. I see people my age passing away all the time. And I've also seen some men who had a few good women in their life and they squandered those opportunities trying to sow their oats and feeling like they were fighting against themselves to be in a monogamous relationship where they weren't ready. Right? But because they had such a duplicitous mentality between what it meant to treat a woman like a wife versus what it meant to treat a woman like a hoe, just every time they wanted to take a woman serious, it was like the woman was changing their mind. Changing their mind. So she lost respect for him. She felt like she tamed him. He didn't already have in mind his real standards for a relationship and factored in the things that would really be necessary to make that happen and for that to run effectively and to establish a program. Right? So a lot of times with those men, I see those men having options of women they can marry today. Multiple. Could just pick up a phone. Men who's players. Now, some of those men were more honest with women than others. But ultimately, a lot of those women, they knew what it was. And when it wasn't, it became something more. I've seen that happen plenty. But I think sometimes I just think about that whole idea of sowing oats versus transitional dating. To me, I feel like if you lead with a relationship saying, I'm looking for my next wife, I want to see if you're her, then that kind of at times obligates a man to say, okay, I'm going to take my time and get to know you before I fuck you. Now, is that going to be enough time to know that that's the woman he wants to marry? What if they're not compatible in the quality, quantity, consistency, variety of sexual acts that they take part in? You know, what is that, just another conversation? I mean, that's something to think about. So it's like, in the mind of a lot of women, just like being indirect or dishonesty, in the mind of the woman, if you leave with the idea of getting married or a relationship, saying you want to be in one, and then you hit it before you know when, if that's true, and then it just so happens y'all not compatible and it don't work out, then it's like, either way you look like a liar. Like, you fucked the woman based off of your idea of offering the emotional, social, and financial investment of marriage, which is the highest level of validation that can be offered. And it's like, I just wonder how much sexual compatibility can play a part in it. I think it's some people gonna get lucky like that. And I think there probably are some men who get to a place in their lives where they've had enough experience to be able to just tell certain things about a woman when they see her. I'm a young guy, that's not me. There's certain things I can tell about a woman, but I don't put anything past people. Not to be very cynical about things, but I like to see for myself before I make that decision. So for me, it's a transition. But I'm direct about my sexual intentions because that's one of the caveats for me. So it's hook up, fuck buddy, friends with benefits. Then from friends with benefits, you branch off into whether or not y'all want to be in a poly situation, a non-monogamous situation, some form or variation of non-monogamy or monogamy. And based off of what you choose, things become different from that place. Right? That's how it works in my mind. So if that's a woman who says that she wants polyamory, or she wants an open situation, then depending on my mindset, one man's mindset may be different than another's. One may say, well, if I really want monogamy, then she's just not going to get above this position. And some men have a different compartment that they put their mind towards that type of relationship if they know that they ultimately may want a monogamous marriage. So some will say, okay, cool, she stays in that position. If she wants something else, it is what it is. She doesn't have to deal with me. She's not going to do that if she doesn't want to do that. Some men may prefer a more non-monogamous situation and just be like, okay, cool. If that's something that she wants, is it a non-negotiable for me? Like, some men are ambiamorous. I consider myself ambiamorous, which means that I could be in a poly relationship or I could be in a monogamous relationship, and I could be happy in either one without feeling like I'm losing something, right? But my shit's conditional, right? So it's like I don't have a super need for a variety of partners like that. It's not that big of a thing for me. But just more so about the consistency. Some men have a high drive. So for me, I think the issue is that a lot of men may want something serious. And it's not that they're being indecisive, it's just that sex is part of their vetting process. And how that ties into this topic is that when it comes to especially leading with sex or different aspects of a relationship, when you lead with the idea of the emotional validation, the social validation, the financial investment that you're going to give a woman, then you look like a liar if you take that away because she's doing not what she said she was going to do. You look like a manipulator. But after a while, that shit gets obvious. Right? Now, it might still be effective, but she loses trust in you. She loses a feeling of emotional safety in you during that time. But if before this is on the table, right? If before marriage, deeply profound relationship, and all these things are on the table, and your relationship is based solely on sex at first, then maybe branches out into a common interest, and like I said, it branches out from the friends with benefits, and it goes into either poly or exclusive. There's an exclusive period. That's a trial period of exclusivity. And both of y'all are able to do that without feeling too much of a need to step out of that situation, then I think that you're qualified to be in a monogamous relationship. If not, then you can stay in that exclusive period for a little bit longer. And if that time doesn't work, then you may either cut ties or start extending out into dating other people. So I'll be honest with you, on some real stuff, I get it, but I'm not the biggest guy on clean cuts. Right? That's the truth too. If I'm dealing with a woman and she's no longer qualifying for a certain position, then I'm just going to demote her. We're still sexually compatible. We can still do what we do. You're just not going to be as close to me. And if she doesn't like that, then she's going to leave. Because she's not going to stay somewhere she don't want to be. Not at all. That's just a demotion. And this stuff does come from a dom-sub dynamic. Because every woman I deal with is a dom-sub dynamic. I'm Coach Brody. That's just how my mind works. I make sure that there's pleasure that's provided for the power that's being given up. I make sure that there is something that a person receives for the control that they give me, but I like to be in control. I just try to make sure that me being in control is a better experience than what the woman's mindset is of how she already believes the situation is supposed to work. So I'm a challenge with social programming. I am. Right? What do they call that? What they call that? Gaslighting or something? They got a whole bunch of words for the shit that be going on nowadays, and it's kind of crazy to me because the nature of human interaction is influence. Right? It's like you don't have to say a word. It don't even have to be a word. But simply, if a woman is what Alan Roger Curry would call a erotic hypocrite or a wholesome pretender, especially a wholesome pretender, then her frame of reference of how she wants to live her life is to take this good girl image. She wants to be seen as some long-term material. And to me, I don't give a fuck about that. I really don't. Because I actually have my own beliefs about certain topics, especially like, let's say it's like fornication and premarital sex. You know, I live in the Bible Belt. So, of course, there's a bunch of Bible thumpers to be out here. And the funny thing is, I'm a believer. I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God, Lord of Lords. I believe he died, was buried, rose third day, that he has a real, tangible body, that he's still alive, and that he died for the sins of the world. I really believe that. 100%. Like, listen, even if it wasn't real, I still believe it. Because to me, just what that represents is a very powerful thing. Very powerful thing to me. It's not just about social programming for me. It's just about what a King of Kings and Lord of Lords is. It's just a powerful concept. That I feel like there's something that happens to the human psyche when you truly believe that and what it represents. Like I say, I consider myself a mystic Christian. But I don't believe in that fornication stuff. That it's wrong. So when they bring that shit up, it's just like, I'm not gonna sit here and explain that stuff to her. Because it could be a matter of a lack of desire, or it could be a matter of just the social programming. But if I just focus on arousing a woman with how I speak to her, how I interact with her, how I'm being seductive, then shit, her desire level may raise above her desire for comfort within her beliefs and ideologies. And the truth is, since I'm a believer, I prefer to deal with another believer. If I truly believe something is a fact, I truly believe it's true, I can express and explain whatever that is, provide the information, and that's not some evil shit. It only is if a person already has those preconceived notions themselves and they see that as an issue. But life is all about influence. That's the context. That is the nature of human interaction. The nature of human interaction. And I think a lot of people just don't want to accept that. So would I be mad if there were people out there who saw that as manipulation? No, not really. That's their opinion, you know? But I think that influence is the nature of human interaction. I think people are okay with the idea of influence as long as it isn't a conscious thing. Right? Just as long as you aren't purposefully knowing which direction you want the interaction to go in and treating the situation as if you don't care which direction the interaction is going in, and then things just happen by magic, then automatically you're labeled as a manipulator. Anytime the outcome that you desire doesn't fit within the typical norms of societal standards. Right? Because someone doing something to impress another person, right? Which is what it means to treat a woman like she's a prize, even if she's done nothing to show that she is one. That's a form of manipulation. And one thing I definitely agree with Alan Rodgers Curry on is you don't need any money for casual sex. I'm sorry. You know, that's one thing about a lot of these red pill guys. Alan Rodgers Curry is not included in that. But a lot of guys will give the impression that in their pursuit of casual sex, how money is so necessary to have access to women sexually. That is complete and utter bullshit. Doesn't matter what social class that woman is, how beautiful she is, how much money she has, right? How pious she tries to portray herself. If you're talking to her, she attracted to you, what you saying is getting her pussy wet, then none of the other stuff really matters. It kind of goes out the window. She kind of gets into a feminist submissive state. You know, the only issue with that is that there will be some women who will, if your program's not tight or her social program is very strong, then after she leaves out of that stigmatized high state of mind, she will often revert back to her previous way of thinking if she's not used to learning how to integrate and learning how to operate her daily life while being feminine and submissive with a man, or not dealing with a man whose leadership would not allow her to overextend herself while she's in that state of being feminine and submissive, while she's in subspace, and just that aftershock, afterglow, that high state of mind where a woman's receptive to anything you have to say, sexually, non-sexually. That's a state of mind where a woman will often just spend money on you for no reason, right? It's just like, I appreciate it, but she appreciates you. She'll start doing extra shit for you because she wants to show you that dick ain't free. You ain't gotta tell her. Now, I've told a woman to their face before that, this dick ain't free. I've definitely said that and then had them spend some money on me. But that's just, I got a big ego. It is what it is, right? I'm a little bit of an arrogant motherfucker. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm cocky. Like when it comes to certain things, I mind my business. It's not my lane. When it comes to certain things, I sit back and I be a student. And the things I love the most, I'm still gonna sit back and be a student from time to time. But when it comes to certain things, I'm an arrogant motherfucker. It is what it is. And when it comes to how I deal with women, I'm an arrogant motherfucker. It is what it is. That's just what kind of nigga I am. And that's something that some people never get to experience in life, is having experiences that back up that self-perception, right? Because really, in the same way that your behavior, right, what you respond to, what you give the most energy towards, what you may dismiss versus what you may sit there and communicate and receive. Just how that trains the way that woman interacts with you sexually. Your experiences where women had the most orgasms and the most genuine desire that they express towards you. Where women were the most sexually responsive and adventurous and down for whatever. Where women were loose with how they would spend money on you. Where women were feminine and submissive towards you. And listened to daddy and did what daddy said. Out of admiration. The way that you behaved that got that outcome, nobody can convince you that that behavior isn't right. Maybe they can. That often comes from getting domesticated. Right? That's how things can work a lot of the times. But for the most part, you know that whatever behavior you exhibited to get that outcome is where you're in your Dom state of mind. Right? That amalgamation of things is when you're in that Dom space. And that woman's feeling you. You a cocky motherfucker. She just feeling that. You really feel like nobody can tell you shit. Like you really think you all that in a bag of chips.
for the turkey wing, some white rice, and some broccoli casserole for the four-way stop. Listen, that shit is something I frequent. I frequent that shit. I fucking love it. I probably eat that about 3 times a week. About 3 times a week, I got to. And how much is it? It might be about $14. It ain't nothing crazy. It's not crazy. It's just turkey wings are kind of rare around here. So when you want to get one, you just gotta pay the price that's available, right? You just gotta pay what you gotta pay. Yeah, you can go get some fast food, but it ain't the same substance, right? It don't feel as real. It costs more, but there's gravy on it, you know what I mean? It's just the juice off of that turkey wing going on top of the rice and the broccoli casserole with some hot sauce on it. You break it up, you put it together. That's like 2 meals. You done got a vegetable in for the day, and you was eating good. It's like you're full. You feel satisfied. You don't feel heavy and lethargic. You don't feel dirty about yourself. Right? That's the thing right there, right? See, as a man, oftentimes that's what you offering a woman. By your presence, by your essence, by how you carry yourself. Right? So it's not just dick. Yeah, dick plays a part. Oftentimes it's just the way you carry yourself. She just feels like, man, it is such a present to be in his presence that I want to make sure that how I carry myself makes him want to prioritize spending time with me. Because ain't no way he is really that nigga like that and he doesn't have other women already. So I believe in being upfront about having other women. Because ain't no way I'm gonna meet a woman and act like I ain't got other women. That's pre-selection. That's where you weed out the women who feel entitled from the women who are willing to put some work in. That doesn't mean I'll never be down for monogamy. It don't mean that. It don't mean that especially don't mean I'll never be down for a primary partnership. I do like primary partnerships. But there are conditions, and the woman who is competitive is also a woman who understands that sex alone isn't what wins me over. Now, I'm not talking about changing my mind. I'm talking about campaigning for a position. Sex alone don't win me over. It don't. So I make sure that she enjoys the time she spends with me to where she wants more. More of my time, more time to be around me. And there's nothing wrong with the woman wanting more of your time if you're open to having a primary partnership and that woman is competitive with how she treats you and the time that she spends with you. And I'm not saying she gotta be always in her head thinking about other women, but just she sees your value. and says, I gotta show him that he don't need these other bitches. It's a little bit of box out game. Box out game is only bad if she's a bait and switch. If she fully plans to try to be in that position, it's best for you to really set your program to where the expectations that are necessary for each level of a relationship are set in your own mind before you even meet the woman. Yes, nobody's perfect. So you may not be like looking for perfection isn't realistic, right? But you can know what things go outside the norm that you can accept, or even things that you have, and I know people hate that play it Mr. Fix It type of shit, right? But areas where you have guidance, something to offer the woman. And predicate that respect and that desire off of good dick and guidance. There's no substitute for good dick and guidance. There's none. When you desire to be masculine and dominant, there's none. Good dick and guidance. So in that time where you're just giving her some good dick, that's enough to hold her attention. And just the idea of like, damn, this guy's kind of dope. Just his whole vibe, his whole essence is crazy. You know, in that time, you can vet for how receptive she is to you giving her instruction. And to me, I think that should happen even before sex. But you vet how receptive she is to getting with what you want to do, because she wants to do it so much that she doesn't need a super long explanation about all the context. She's thinking about that dick. Right? When her desire level gets high enough, her mindset becomes, I don't care if it's for right now or if it's for a long time, but I want it. Now, during that time, between then and actually committing to a relationship, if that's something you're open to, within transitional dating, you guide along little minor things that turn into big things, and you don't give those things energy or attention. And if the situation calls for it, you check, but most of the time that's most gonna come off as some emotional shit, right? Some begging behavior, which will show that you have a lack of options. But sometimes you see for yourself if she's receptive to you giving her instructions without everything being explained. It's as simple as the idea of, if you're walking on the street with a woman and she's in her phone and you say stop, is she gonna keep walking and possibly get hit by a car? Right? If you say stop, right? Or is she going to say, why? And keep walking. Is she going to stop when you say stop? Or is she going to keep walking and wait for you to explain and get hit by a car, right? Or is it going to be a situation where she's like, well, if I got to stop, you got to stop too. You may not be right where that is. Get what I'm saying? You might be somewhere else. It's just like, she's like, well, if I gotta stop, if I gotta jump, nigga, you gotta crawl. Kind of want to vet for that kind of behavior and that kind of mentality in a woman, and not let that kind of woman get above a certain position with you. get what I'm saying? Because you're going to be a hindrance to life. Slow you down. Now, there's nothing wrong with explaining afterwards. I call that show and tell. It's like oftentimes a woman is submissive with me before I use the word submissive in a conversation like that. I just use that word to describe that behavior after she's already in an energy with me. And then the pre-notions of what that word means lose their importance and context. Because society has its own idea of what submission is. Those things are in the collective consciousness, like certain things just ring bells for people, like the idea of slavery, right? Or the idea of feeling degraded. That's why I love women with the degradation kink. That degradation kink makes it real hard for certain women to stick to their feminism. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. That degradation and humiliation kink, all that makes it hard for someone to stick to their feminism. Because that degradation and humiliation kink in a woman sometimes, it makes it very easy to tap into the feminine submissive and get pushed into subspace and just love basking in the presence of a masculine dominant man, receiving wave after wave of orgasm. Just sitting there and listening to him talk, thinking about how intelligent he is. I'm just sitting there and observing his actions and seeing how competent he is at different things that he puts his hand into in life. Different things he tries his hand at, he's just good at it. And that turns her the fuck on. To feel like this man is superior to her in all these different ways. Even if it's just that one way. She knows she's not getting as much pleasure out of this that he is. She knows. That degradation kick is a motherfucker. As long as that man has her respect, that thing can get tapped into easily. And a lot of women have them. A lot of women. That's why women like to get like spanked during sex, or women like to get choked during sex, or women like to get slapped or spit in their mouth, or called a bitch, called a slut, called a whore. It's that informal speech, that language that is something she wouldn't want everybody saying to her on the street corner. But you're someone who she desires enough and trusts enough in that moment to want those things from you. And that just pushes her right over the edge. She comes hard as shit. Multiple times. That's just how a lot of stuff can be sometimes. You gotta understand that the behavior that you reward with your time and attention, right, is going to be the behavior that if you try to change that behavior, when she's not doing what you want on her, especially like, let's say she's not having sex with you like you want her to. Yes, you can do that, you know. But yes, you will probably also get labeled a narcissist and get called all kind of shit if you go to court about it. But to genuinely lose interest is something that can't be disputed. Right? It's just like, it's best to start that off early. How you interact with a woman. It's best to start it off very early, so it seems more so part of your actual personality. Right? So it feels more so like it's just who you are. And she's gaining the understanding of who you are through interacting with you and sometimes putting her hand on the hot stove. Peterson said about the study that was done about the interactions of healthy relationships is like 10 good interactions to every one bad interaction. Anytime it went over under 5, then typically the relationship was in bad water. But anytime it went over another number, I don't remember exactly what all the numbers were, but I believe anytime it went over another number, right, then the relationship was in a bad spot. So there's a certain sweet spot to how well you would interact without any conflict, right? Before it also puts a relationship in jeopardy versus just saying you want her to agree with you 100% of the time, right? Gotta understand that too. But I think it's very important to understand that it's a matter of sometimes a woman gonna text you some shit that is confusing. It makes no sense. You can understand it, but if it takes too many words to make a response, oftentimes it's best not to respond because she tried you. But it's like oftentimes certain things don't take that many words. It doesn't. If you have to go out of your way when she's not behaving herself, when she's being bratty, to then find all these words to say, then you've officially been finessed out of your time and your attention, your energy. Alright? That's what happened. You just got finessed. Your time, your attention, your energy. So it's important to keep these things in mind. This is Coach Brody.